Welcome to the Grand Slam channel. In this video, we're going to look at the 15 worst trades in Los Angeles Dodgers history. Throughout the course of the Los Angeles Dodgers story history, they have made some huge trades that have altered the course of multiple franchises along the way. It wasn't that long ago that we had the deal that brought Max Scherzer and Trey Turner to LA a couple years ago, that effectively ended the Nationals' window of contention. Then there was a whole Mookie Betts trade that brought the Dodgers another superstar and that Boston fans are continuing to mourn. Their tears are delicious. For the most part, Andrew Friedman and company have done a really good job of parting with the right guys and acquiring players that can help the team. Going even further back than that, LA has done well to assemble their teams with the right pieces at the right times in their careers. However, there have certainly been some trade duds along the way. Some looked okay at the time and turned out to be quite painful, while others, well, they never looked good. Here are the 15 worst trades in Dodgers history. There's no specific order of importance of the trades that happened, so here's the first one. Eric Karros to the Chicago Cubs. Karros was well past his prime in 2002 when this move went down. Karros won the National League Rookie of the Year award in 1992 and was a consistent source of offense in the Dodgers lineup for almost a decade. But he was on the decline when he was sent to the Cubs during the 2002 offseason, along with Mark Grudzielanek for catcher Todd Hundley. While Karros was perfectly serviceable with the Cubs and Grudzielanek was downright good in Chicago, the bigger issue was the return. The Dodgers had a weird fascination with Hundley, as this was the second time LA traded for him. The first time didn't go particularly well either. What did LA get from Hundley's second stint with the team? Well, 21 games with a 735 OPS and 2 homers. Hundley would not play another game after the 2003 season. Dave Stewart to the Rangers. Dave Stewart is probably best remembered for his time with the Oakland A's in the late 1980s when he finished at the top 4 of the American League Cy Young voting. But he actually started his career with the Dodgers earlier in the decade. Stewart took a while to reach his peak, but he ended up being a dominant force on the mound. The Dodgers returned Rick Honeycutt, who was decidedly mid for a few seasons for LA before the Dodgers shipped him out after he went 2-12 with the ERA of 4.59 in 1987. Third trade, Henry Rodriguez to the Expos. Some of you out there may remember the phenomenon that was O. Henry in the mid-90s. But Henry Rodriguez was a hot commodity when he came out of almost nowhere to hit 36 homers in 1996 and put together a string of decent seasons after that. He started his career with the Dodgers and he clearly wasn't in their plans as they traded him in 1995 along with Jeff Treadway to the Expos for Roberto Kelly and Joey Eishen. If you don't remember either of them, we wouldn't blame you. Fourth trade, Jose Offerman to the Royals. Once Jose Offerman made an All-Star team in 1995, the Dodgers may have felt that they were selling high when they traded him to the Royals for reliever Billy Brewer. Unfortunately, for the Dodgers, Offerman will go on to continue to improve with the Royals, which included a 5.3 WAR season in 1998 and another All-Star Game appearance for Boston the next season. As for Brewer, he never played in the big leagues for the Dodgers and was traded away in 1996 to the Yankees. He will go on to play for a short time in Oakland and finish out his career with the 3 bad season with the Phillies. Definitely not the return you want for a talent like Offerman. Fifth trade is Dave Roberts to the Red Sox. Roberts' time as a player with the Dodgers wasn't particularly special, as he posted a 718 OPS season in 2002, followed by a 638 mark in 2003. However, the one thing he could do is steal bases. He had 121 steals in 2.5 seasons of work with the Dodgers. While his ability to get on base wasn't exactly what you will want in the leadoff spot, he did cause havoc when he reached safely, and that has some real value. Trading Roberts in 2004 wasn't a terrible decision per se, because again his value was somewhat limited. However, the return here is a problem, as the Dodgers got only outfield prospect Henry Stanley from the Red Sox. Roberts would win a World Series with Boston that year and put up some decent seasons with the Padres and Giants afterward. As for Stanley, he never made it past AAA and was done playing in the minors after 2005. Sixth trade, Don Newcombe to the Reds. There were several trades from way back that are strong contenders for this list, but we wanted to make sure to highlight when LA decided to part with legend Don Newcombe. Newcombe was just a couple seasons removed from winning both the MVP and Cy Young award when the team dealt him to Cincinnati in 1958 for Steve Bilko and Johnny Klipstein. Not only was trading away one of the franchise's few remaining stars from their days in Brooklyn, not a great look. Newcombe was still a useful pitcher until he retired in 1960. As for who the Dodgers got in return, Bilko will only play 47 games for the Dodgers and wasn't very good when he did play. Klipstein was decent out of the bullpen immediately after the trade, but then proceeded to post a 5.91 ERA in 28 appearances in 1959 before he got shipped off to the then Indians. Next trade, Ron Cey to the Cubs. If you look back at the most pre-2000 deals that involve a team trading a guy with multiple All-Star game appearances, the returns are almost lackluster. As it turns out, a lot of general managers were not good at getting real value for trades before analytics changed the game. That was certainly the case when the Dodgers traded six-time All-Star Ron Cey to the Cubs for Vance Lovelace and Dan Cataline. Now, sure, Cey was not at his peak when that trade went down back in 1983, but he was still a very productive hitter who knew how to draw walks and had some real pop. Moreover, he remained productive for another four seasons with the Cubs before finishing his career with the A's and notching 3+ 20 home run seasons. As for Lovelace and Cataline, they didn't amount to much on the field, with most of their career spent toiling in the minors. Next trade is John Franco to the Reds. John Franco is best known for his time with the Mets, where he put together an impressive amount of saves in a long storied career. However, he actually got his start with the Dodgers. He was traded to the Reds in 1983 in a package to acquire a bench player, Rafael Landstoy. In fairness to LA here, this only looks bad in hindsight. Landstoy was actually one of the better bench guys available, and Franco was not a prized prospect. The vast majority of folks' minds, most minor league relievers that get traded for help at the big league level, don't pan out. Unfortunately for the Dodgers, Landstoy will retire one season later, and Franco will go on to save 424 games over a 21-year career. Baseball is funny sometimes. Next trade is a very current one. Yordan Alvarez to the Houston Astros. Yeah, this one definitely hurts a little bit in hindsight, but was somewhat understandable at the time. The Dodgers needed help in their bullpen back in 2016 at the trade deadline. They had spent big money to sign Yordan Alvarez out of Cuba, and while they still liked him, he was smashing the ball like he is in the big leagues right now, so they made the decision to send him to the Astros in exchange for reliever Josh Fields. Fields did well for the Dodgers across 2.5 seasons with ERAs under 3 each year, totaling 124 appearances before his big league career came to an end in 2018. The Dodgers got exactly what they wanted out of him. Unfortunately, it cost him a guy that turned into one of the best power hitters on planet Earth right now. Next trade is Rick Sutcliffe to the Indians, which is now the Guardians. Whenever you trade a guy that goes on to win a Cy Young, it never feels great. And that's what happened when the Dodgers sent Rick Sutcliffe to the Indians back in 1981 for a package of prospects. While one can be certain that the Dodgers liked the prospects they got at the time, the return for a guy that had won Rookie of the Year feels like it needed to be better than what the Dodgers got. Sutcliffe will go on to finish out an 18-year career that included 3 top 5 Cy Young Award finishes, including a win in 1984. As for Jorge Horta, Jack Fimple, and Larry White, the Dodgers returned in the ill-fated trade, none of them meaningfully contributed to the Dodgers at all. Next trade is Carlos Santana to the Indians. Back in 2008, Carlos Santana was considered by many to be one of the Dodgers' best minor league prospects, since catchers that can smash are tough to come by. However, that didn't stop LA from moving him to the Indians and deal to acquire third baseman Casey Blake near the trade deadline. In fairness to Blake, he played well for the Dodgers after the trade. The Dodgers wanted production as they got it out of him. Santana, though, has gone on to have a very nice 14-year career, and counting, which includes 6 20 home run seasons and a 33.6 WAR career. Next trade is Paul Konerko to the Reds. This move comes from the time when Tommy Lasorda was in general manager's chair back in 1998. LA needed some help in the bullpen, so they traded then rookie Paul Konerko and swingman Dennis Reyes to the Reds. Why is it always the Reds? For reliever Jeff Shaw. Konerko's time in Cincinnati was short-lived, but he would join the White Sox in 1999 and play for 16 seasons. He made 6 All-Star games and was one of Chicago's most consistent offensive threats until he started to tail off the last couple of years. It sure would have been nice to see what he could have done in a Dodgers uniform, even though Shaw did pitch well for LA across 4 seasons. The last 3 trades involved 3 superstars. Gary Sheffield to the Braves. After 3 straight excellent seasons with the Dodgers, Sheffield wanted out of LA, and if they weren't going to commit to him, he got his wish and was traded to the Atlanta Braves for Brian Jordan, Odalis Perez, and Andrew Brown. This one isn't completely on the Dodgers since Gary was pretty clearly trying to force his way out, but it still feels bad. Sheffield will go on to play 2 very strong seasons in Atlanta and then continue to rake with the Yankees before his borderline Hall of Fame career tailed off with the Tigers and Mets. LA did get some decent work from Odalis Perez at the beginning, but Brown didn't go anywhere with the Dodgers, and Brian Jordan was only mediocre for 1.5 seasons of work before he moved to the Rangers and then finally back to the Braves. Probably one of the worst trades in Dodgers history is Pedro Martinez to the Expos. Yep, if you have followed the Dodgers for a while, you knew this one was coming. While we don't have hard and fast rankings here, this one is likely at the top of everyone's list of worst trades in Dodgers history. Pitchers are always tricky because they are very clearly the most volatile of any type of player and the most likely to flame out completely. But back in 1993, the Dodgers traded with the Expos to get Delino DeShields, who was a perfectly reasonable player to want on your roster. Who did they send to get him? Pedro Martinez. Yes, that Pedro Martinez. DeShields wasn't terrible, but Pedro's career speaks for itself. He was a very strong claim to being the best pitcher of his era after racking up 3 Cy Young awards, multiple ERA titles, 8 All-Star game appearances, and of course, being enshrined in Cooperstown in his first year of eligibility back in 2015. He is one of the best to ever play the game and was the Dodgers once upon a time. Oh, what could have been. And last trade is a personal one. At that time, well, still now, Mike Piazza is still one of my favorite players of all time. So this trade hurts me personally. Mike Piazza to the Marlins. This move is on most folks' lists, giving Mike Piazza the stature as one of the better catchers to ever play the game, but also because of the sheer scope of the trade itself. In 1998, Mike Piazza was at the top of his game, and it was clear that negotiations on a potential extension were not going well. Instead of just letting him walk, they traded him to the Marlins for Gary Sheffield, Bobby Bonilla, Jim Eisenreich, Manuel Barrios, and Charles Johnson. The Marlins would then flip Mike Piazza to the Mets for Jeff Goetz, Ed Yarnall, and Preston Wilson. The Mets clearly ended up the winners here as they got a Hall of Famer for the better part of a decade. The Marlins and Dodgers? Yeah, not so much. Although Sheffield did have some nice seasons in LA, it's still funny that Bobby Bonilla is still getting paid by the Mets and will until 2035. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. And comment below which trade do you think was the worst in Dodgers history.